So now we call ourselves Africans. So where does this name come from, really? Why do we call ourselves Ma-Africa? Did the people on this continent have a roundtable discussion to say from now on we were going to call ourselves Africans? So there are many arguments out there regarding the origin of this name. Some people say the way the Afri people who lived in modern day Tunisia, who have now moved to Niger and Mali, who were called Afri. So the name Africa comes from that tribe. Other people say Africa is an acronym. Africa. Af means from, Ka means spirit. The other argument is that the name comes from Sepias Africanus, who was an Italian emperor who came, conquered, and took the land, and then called the entire North Africa, Africa. So now, meaning then that he named Africa after himself. The answer to this lies with South Africa. People came from Europe, came, conquered, took the land. In 1910, declared that this country is now called South Africa. And they said it only belonged to people of European descent. Hence, we had to carry passports because we were not allowed. They said, you belong to your homeland. South Africa does not belong to you. And then the people also said, we are the Afrikaners and we speak Afrikaans. So if the word Africa comes from the African tribe or spirituality, why would the Afrikaner name themselves after black people? I mean, these people are racist. They hate black people. South Africa is now called after an Italian emperor. So this simply means then that when you call yourself an African, you mean that you are conquered, defeated, defenseless. You are somebody's property. The people of European descent, they say they are also South African or Afrikaner because they are identifying with their fellow brother who conquered, defeated, and took the land. Words are spell. So remember, every time you say, I'm an African, always remember the meaning and the origin of this name. Hence, you look at us in Africa. We so divided. We cannot unite. We hate on each other. We kill each other. We bewitch each other. We sell each other poisonous food. We steal and destroy property. Because when we look at ourselves, we see these defeated people. So every time we call the name Africa, we are invoking the spirit of this man who defeated us, who left us poor and landless. We need to look into this name change of this continent, because as long as we don't change the name, as long as we're still speaking the spell, bewitching ourselves, we will remain poor and landless and at the bottom of the food chain. So Africa will never develop. Africa will never develop. And South Africa, we will always remain landless and oppressed in our own country. Words are spells. We know in our culture, when we name our children, we don't just take a book and choose a name that you like. There's always a meaning. Because every time you look at this child, every time you call this child's name, you will always be reminded of the meaning. And sometimes we even expect our children to live up to that name. So if we call ourselves African, what kind of expectation do we have on ourselves? If we say we want to be united, we want to develop this continent, we want to come together, let's look at changing this name. African Americans. So they are saying, we have been conquered, we have been defeated, we are property of the people who took us in huge boats to another land, including the black people who are already in America. They call themselves Africans now. They are defeated. They are conquered in their own land. The name Africa is a curse upon us as a people. We need to have that discussion as a people and ask ourselves, what did we call ourselves before we were called Africans? And it's very suspicious. If you look at the time when this name became popular, it was around the turn of the 20th century that now all of a sudden some people took that decision to call us Africans, and they made sure that we identify with this name because the plan was simple. They wanted us to remain defeated. They wanted us to remain slaves throughout our entire lives. They don't care about us and about our well-being. We are a spiritual people, and we understand the power of words. We have a saying in my language, bitso lebe ke seromo, that if you give a child a name that is bad, that child will take after that name. So if we take after a person who did bad to our people, who killed our people, who raped our children, so what does that say about us? We need to look into things in a spiritual way. People are saying we are on the brink of the Third World War, and they don't understand that we are already in the Third World War. But the war this time is different. It is a spiritual war. So in order for us to win this war, we don't have to take up arms. We don't have to go out there, kill people, destroy property. It is not the way to go. We need to go back to our own spirituality, to our own original selves, to the names that we used to call ourselves, that made us powerful and highly spiritual. So if we continue taking names that we don't understand and applying them to us, those names are the very reason we are where we are today. Some people are saying South Africa should be called Azania. Where does that name even come from? Because my understanding and the little research that I've done shows me that Azania is an Arabic name. It has got nothing to do with us. So if we want a name for this continent and for this country, it will come from the people. Before South Africa was declared a union, what was it called? What did King Moshoeshoe call this place? What did Shaka, what did King Hintsa call this place? What did our people call themselves in 1652 and before? So we need to do the work here. Let's not allow people to continue destroying us as a people. We are in a war, and as long as you don't go back to your spirituality, whether you pray or wapatha, whatever that you do, it is important, because this is how we are going to win this war. It's not physical. We're never going to see bombs. We're never going to see destruction, but we are going to be attacked spiritually. People are lost these days. They don't know who they are anymore. So the answer is for you to go back to your original self. Let's go back to our culture, Ubuntu. That's where we are going to get the answers to who we are and where we are supposed to be at this moment. Names are important. Words are spells. So let's misspell the name Africa. Vugataki.